Hello, everybody, and welcome back for my continuation of my book reading of Misery from Stephen King. Chapter 7 No Letter N. When he woke up from his drugged sleep, he found himself in a wheelchair. He realized that she was very strong. She lifted him up and put him in the wheelchair so gently that he had not woken up. It hurts to sit in the wheelchair, but it was nice to be able to see outside of the window. He could only see a little when he was sitting up in the bed. The wheelchair was in front of a table by the window of his room. He looked out on a small snow-covered farm with a barn for the animals and equipment. The snow was still deep, and there was no sign that it was going to melt yet. Beyond the farm was a narrow road, and then the tree-covered mountains. He heard the sound of a key in the lock. She came and fed him some soup. "I think you're going to get better," she said. "Yes, if we don't have any more of those arguments. I think you'll get healthy and strong." But Paul knew she was lying. One day his car would be found. One day someone, a policeman perhaps, would come and ask her questions. One day something would happen which would make Annie Wilkes frightened and angry. She was going to understand that you can't kidnap people and escape. She was going to have to go to court again. And this time, she might not leave the court a free woman. She was going to realize all this and be afraid. So, she was going to have to kill Paul. How long was it before the snow melted? How long before his car was found? How long did he have to live? "I bought you another present, as well as the wheelchair," she was saying. "I'll go and get it for you." She came back with an old black typewriter. "Well," she said, "what do you think?" "It's great," he said. "A real antique." Her face clouded over. "I didn't get it as an antique," she said. "I got it second hand. It was a bargain, too." She wanted $45 for it, but I got it for $40 because it has no N. She looked pleased with herself. Paul could barely believe it. She was pleased at buying a broken old typewriter? "You did really well," he said, discovering that flattery was easy. Her smile became even wider. "I told her that N was one of the letters in my favorite writer's name." "It's two of the letters in my favorite nurse's name," replied Paul, hating himself. "But what will I write on this typewriter, do you think?" "Oh, Paul, I don't think, I know. You're going to write a new novel. It'll be the best yet. Misery's Return." Paul felt nothing, said nothing. He was too surprised. But her face was shining with great joy, and she was saying, "I'll be a book just for you. It'll be my payment for nursing you back to health. The only copy in the whole world, of the newest Misery book." "But Annie, Misery's dead." "No, she's not. Even when I was angry at you, I knew she wasn't really dead. I knew you couldn't really kill her, because you're good." "Annie, will you tell me one thing?" "Of course, dear. If I write this book for you, will you let me go when I've finished?" For a moment she seemed uncomfortable, and then she looked at him carefully. "You talk as if I was keeping you prisoner, Paul." He didn't reply. "I think," she said, "that when you finished, you should be ready to meet other people again." But she was lying. She knew that she was lying, and Paul knew she was lying too. The day he finished this new novel would be the day of his death. She started locking the door of his room whenever she left it. 2 mornings later, she helped him into his wheelchair and fed him a bigger breakfast than usual. "You'll need your strength now, Paul. I'm so excited about the new novel." He rolled over to the table by the window. and to the waiting typewriter. Thick snow was falling, and it was difficult to recognize objects outside. Even the barn was just a snow-covered hump. She came into the room carrying several packets of typing paper. She saw straight away that the paper was corrosible bond, and his face fell. "What's the matter?" she asked. "Nothing," he said quietly. "Something is the matter," she said. "Tell me what it is." "I like some different paper, if you could get it." "Different from this? But this is the most expensive paper there is." "I asked for the most expensive paper." "Didn't your mother ever tell you that the most expensive things are not always the best?" "No, she did not. What she told me, Mr. Clever, is that when you buy cheap things, you get cheap things." She was defensive now, and Paul guessed that she would get angry next. Paul was frightened, but he knew that he had to try to control her a little. If she always won, without any resistance from him, she would get the habit of being angry with him, and that would be worse. But his need for her and for the drug made him want to keep her happy. It took away all his courage to attack her. Annie was beginning to breathe more rapidly now, and her hands were pumping faster and faster, opening and closing. "And you better stop that too," he said. "Getting angry won't change a thing." She froze as if he had slapped her, and looked at him, wounded. "This is a trick," she said. "You don't want to write my book, and so you're finding excuses not to start." "I knew you would." "That's silly," he replied. "Did I say that I was not going to start?" "No, but I am going to start. Come here, and I'll show you the problem." "What?" "Watch." He put a piece of paper in the typewriter and wrote "Misery's Return" by Paul Sheldo. He took the paper out and rubbed his finger over the words. The words immediately became indistinct and faint. "Do you see? Were you going to rub every page of your typewriter with your finger? The pages rubbing against one another will be enough." "All right, Mr. Man," she said in a complaining voice. "I'll get your stupid paper. Just tell me what to get and I'll get it." "But you must understand that we're on the same side." "Don't make me laugh," she said sarcastically. "No one has been on my side since my mother died 20 years ago." "You can think what you like," he said. "At any rate, you must believe that I'm on the book side. If I type it on corrosible bond, in 10 years' time, there will be nothing left for you to read." All right, she said. "I'll go now." Paul suddenly remembered that it was time for his medicine soon, and he began to get nervous. Had he gone too far? Would she disappear for hours and hours? He needed his medicine. "Tell me what kind of paper to get," she said. Her face had turned to stone. He told her the names of some good kinds of paper. She smiled then, a horrible smile. "I'll go and get your papers," she said. "I know you want to start as soon as you can, since you're on my side." These last words were spoken with terrible sarcasm. "So I'm not even going to put you back into your bed. Of course it will hurt you to sit in a wheelchair for so long at first. Perhaps the pain will be so great that you have to delay starting to write. But that's too bad. I have to go, because you want your precious, stupid Mr. Clever special paper." Suddenly her stony face seemed to break into pieces. She was standing at the door on her way out, and she rushed across the room at him. She screamed and punched her fist down on the swollen lump which was Paul's left knee. He threw his head back and screamed too. The pain streamed out from his knee to every part of his body. "She would just sit there," she said, her lips still pulled back in that horrible grin. and think about who is in charge here, and all the things I can do to hurt you if you behave badly or try to trick me. You seem to think I'm stupid, but I'm not. And you can cry and shout all you want while I'm away, because no one will ever hear you. No one comes here because they all think Annie Wilkes is crazy. You all know what I did, although the court did say that I was innocent. There wasn't enough evidence, you see. She walked back to the door and turned again. He screamed again because he expected another rush and more pain. That made her grin more widely. She left the room, locking the door behind her. A few moments later, he heard the roar of her engine. He was left with his tears and his pain. And that was the end of chapter 7 of Misery. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.